Hey guys, we are live with Warriors Next Adventure podcast. Sorry, I had to share my stream in a couple of groups, so that's why it's just a black screen at the beginning there. I just want to say thank you guys for all of your support along the way, and thank you guys for tuning in. I want to let you guys know that the WNA race team is up and running. Unfortunately, we bought the race car right at the end of the season, so we're going to be doing some work on the car this winter. Also, we are now taking donations of vehicles. So if you have an older vehicle you want to get rid of, what you can do is you can donate to the nonprofit. You will get a tax write-off. Usually you will get a better tax write-off than you would for selling a junk car. What we'll do is we'll fix it up a little bit and we will donate it to a veteran in need. Usually a veteran who needs it for work or needs it for school or something along those lines. So that is a new project that we're working on. And then also October 10th, for anybody in the New York area, I got Chad Miller, who is one of my new ambassadors for the nonprofit. He's leading a hike, and I think we have about 17 members that are going to be climbing Mount Marcy. Mount Marcy is about a 5,000 foot. It's right at about 5,000 feet. The elevation changes maybe about 2,000. It's right around 16-ish miles round trip. So it's not an easy hike. It's not super difficult. You're just going to have to push your cardio. So check out the WNA Facebook page, and we have an event on there for that. If you want to go, unfortunately, we don't have the funding to get people out there right now. So if you want to go, you have to transport yourself. However, we are getting a giant tent and like an old school military tent with cots and everything. So it's going to be pretty cool. It's not going to be the greatest sleeping conditions, unfortunately. I might get an Airbnb as well, but chances are it's only going to be about 6 people. So we will figure it out. We're going to do our best to accommodate it best we can. So again, that's October 10th. Go ahead and check out the Facebook page. Okay, today I have on Donna Michaels. She was in the Navy and she worked with the SEALs down in Panama, and she's been in law enforcement for the last 20 years. She just wrote a book, and it's called Courageously Broken. She's on today, and she's going to talk a little bit about her book and some of her experiences in the military and in law enforcement. So we will bring her on. Hey, Donna, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing?
Good. So I want you to throw your disclaimer out there about Donna Michaels.
Okay. Yeah, no kidding. Like I was telling you, I was really glad I researched the author name before I decided to print it on the book. So
Yeah.
I would like everybody to know that if you look up Donna Michaels, you're going to find some hot, steamy romances about some affairs with Navy SEALs. That is not me. I did not write those books. And I don't want to be mistaken with whoever that author is. So as a result, if you're going to be looking for my book, please look for Courageously Broken under D.A. Michaels and not Donna Michaels. And, just want to get that out there.
Oh, so that's why you went with DA.
Yeah, that's why I went with DA. Exactly.
Oh, there you go. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Like I told you, one of my teenage daughter's friends tried to buy it for his grandma, and I'm like, "Whoo, I'm glad we sorted that out before that was the wrong direction."
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we are live on WNA Facebook and YouTube right now, and after chatting today in the veteran first responder PTSD group, that little interaction with that other person, I ended up deleting her from the group because it initially went from her trying to speak her mind to her being extremely rude. So I just deleted it.
It was toxic.
Yeah, that was toxic. So it's one thing to question what somebody's doing, but it's another thing to start swearing at them and calling them rude names. And that it's my group, so I'm not going to handle it. I'm not going to let that shit fly.
Well, I appreciate that because I didn't even see that part. I was too busy juggling other things. So thank you for that.
Well, I always try to respond to that stuff in a logical manner, and I don't get very emotional about stuff. It's my emotions are pretty much out of everything that I say. I just pretty much speak from logic for the most part. And I understood where she was coming from, but at the same time, so for those who aren't aware, so the Veteran First Responder PTSD support group, it's for veterans and first responders. So Donna had shared her book, and I was looking at it and everything like that, and I just bought it today, so thank you. I hope I get it soon.
Thank you.
It takes me forever to read a book, so
it's going to be a bit. It'll be in your hands by Veterans Day, November 11th is the deadline. So yeah. I'm having to have them shipped from the UK, believe it or not, because the COVID's got the US printing plant so bogged down that it's actually cheaper and faster to order it from the plant in UK. So go figure.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll have it read by November 2021.
There you go.
But yeah, so you posted that in that group, and then we had somebody who we're not going to say who it was, but put a rather distasteful comment on there saying, what the hell do you know? You can't heal from PTSD. You can't do this. You can't do this. Can't do this. And so I responded with, those who say they can and those who say they can't are usually right. I personally healed myself from the shit that I was going through based off of everything that I've been doing. And it's what I base my nonprofit off of. It's all about self-responsibility and self-action, self-care. Everything is internal in my mind when it comes to healing from veterans. You need to take that responsibility route. Your choices are yours. You don't do anything because somebody else made you. You did it because you chose to. Choice is everything. You have to choose to heal, and you have to choose to try to improve your life. So that got a little heated, and I was just like, all right, I got to get rid of this person. So
Yeah,
I deleted her from the group.
Misery loves company, and there's some people that, like you said, they either want to help themselves or they don't.
Yeah.
My book is for those who want help but just don't know how.
Yeah, and the thing is, so many people have so many different ways. There's so many different ways of healing yourself from stuff like this. There's holistic. There's recreational therapy, which is what I offer. I also offer meditation. There's all kinds of different things you can do to improve your own life, but you have to do it. You can't expect a counselor to heal you. A counselor is just going to guide you. You have to take what the counselor is giving you, and you have to apply it to your life. It seemed like this person was, like you said, I'm glad you said it, misery loves company. And it's like she's trying to bring other people down with her. And it's like that's not the right thing to do.
No.
So anyway,
no, it's sad. I actually feel, I feel bad, but it is what it is. Yeah.
I actually reached out to her and we had some messages exchanged, and yeah, she was less than nice. I was like, all right, well, I'm cutting this off, and I just blocked her. I'm not dealing with that.
All you can do.
Yeah. I tried. So when were you in the Navy?
I was in the Navy active duty from 89 to 93.
Okay.
And then I did 4 years of reserve time after that.
So what did you do in the Navy?
Count. I was a yeoman, which is a pencil pusher. I was an administrative person. I went to boot camp in Orlando, went to A school in Mississippi, spent my first duty station in the Azores for 15 months. And then, yeah, that's what most people say. And there's some pretty funny stuff about that in the book, because they had me convinced I had to go to jump school because it was too small for an airstrip. But is in the North Atlantic off the coast of Portugal. It's what makes up the northern corner of the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it's either beautiful weather or it's like 6 months of hurricane weather, one or the other.
That sucks.
Yeah, I did. So I spent 15 months there, which is, there's a chapter about that in the book, and that's where some bad shit happened. And then I ended up, after that, I got some orders to a Navy special warfare unit in Panama. And it was right around the time that Just Cause had happened in December of 89. So I got there I wasn't there for the invasion, but I was there for the immediate years following it, the cleanup and all that stuff.
So what exactly did you do with the SEALs?
Okay.
Were you like an advisor, or what exactly did you do?
No, I got there as an E3, so wasn't advising much. And I was how do I put this? We called it an operations yeoman. That's not an actual official term. Mm-hmm. So my job was when the guys needed to go to down south, because it was the era during the drug wars. So the guys were spending a lot of time down country in South America, Colombia, Bogota, Peru, and all those places, Bolivia. So it was my job to negotiate visas and passports, depending on whether they were traveling on official government orders or traveling on civilians. Because we had, depending on what the operation was. And then it was my job to go downtown to Panama City and get the embassies to cooperate and give me visas in, a New York second, more or less. Not like you normally have to wait forever to get a visa to travel. These guys needed them quickly. So I would do everything. Yeah, there was no waiting. So I needed them now. So I would do that. I did their travel claims. So it was my job to figure out how much it was going to cost to send them on these ops. find them accommodations, get them travel, be it civilian or military. And then when they would come back, it was my job to take all the notes that would be taken, and type the after action reports that would get submitted up the chain to Washington.
Oh, so you got like firsthand sight of like what it was going down, huh?
Oh yeah, no, and it's funny because okay, I was a pencil pusher, I get it, but it didn't matter. What I loved about the spec war community is it didn't matter if you were a pencil pusher or if you were an operator. You were part of the team. You were treated as part of the team. Nobody was less than anyone else. Nice. That team mentality went all the way up and all the way down. So we were out there every morning PTing together, everybody. Doing push-ups, bodybuilders, good morning, darlings.
That sounds horrible.
Well, I
hated PT when I was in the military.
I did too, but it was just what you did. And we had certain guys that would lead PT that we loved because they would make it fun. And then we had old Blue Eyes that we all cursed under our breath every freaking day we got out there, and if anybody knows who old Blue Eyes is, they know who I'm talking about. We hated him. And then, so we did PT together. I got offered the opportunity to fly to Roatan, Honduras before it was a big tourist spot. This was back when nobody had ever heard of it. I got to go diving with them. I got to go up on helo flights. They took me up. I didn't get to jump, but they took me up when they would jump, and I'd get to stand right there on the tailgate and watch them go over. Later, when I got out, we stayed friends, and they did take me on my first jump eventually once I was a civilian, and I started jumping for years through my 20s. But they were my brothers. They looked out for me, as far as protection goes, guidance goes. They taught me that never quit mentality. They built me really into who I ended up becoming, and I will forever be grateful to them.
That's awesome. That brotherhood it's extremely important, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand is like everybody hears the brotherhood, right? And they're like, well, what about the women? Like, no, it's everybody. We're all. The brotherhood is all encompassing, right?
It is. And I've never, ever taken offense to, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, man, it's okay. We're family. It doesn't matter. It's all right.
Well, it's like, I try to make sure I'm saying, brothers and sisters, because I know some people get offended by it. And it's like, that's not what I mean. Like I 100% mean you guys too. Like we've only had, my friend Holly, I knew her for like 5 years. And never really actually met her, but mainly online. So a lot of what I do is online. But she actually came to Colorado with us, and she was just part of the crew. This is the way it works, And so I have a hard time. I noticed that a lot of female veterans don't really take advantage of some of this stuff. It's like I've had a lot of girls. Do you do anything for women? Like, what are you talking about? Like this whole thing is for veterans. It's for veterans, not men. So
we took that oath. We didn't take it as a gender. We took it as a service to our country. We took it as what it was,
Exactly.
And I did this whole, just to give you a hint of a little bit about what happened in the Azores. I am a survivor of military sexual trauma. That's what happened in the Azores. And I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but I absolutely, and I know I'm going to piss off some people when I say this, but I absolutely refuse to use the term "Me Too." I hate it. I don't want to be associated
it got turned into some dumb shit. But
it did, and it's not. It is. We all go through traumas. We all go through shit. And okay, 1 in 4 women. It happened. And the guy I was telling you about in Montana, I did not know the statistics until I met him. I kept my secret for 28 years. I never reported it. I never told anybody. That was on me.
That's why we need people like you actually speaking out about it. There's one veteran I'm doing a jiu-jitsu documentary next year, and I'm traveling around the country, and I'm training at like 37 different jiu-jitsu gyms, and it's called PTSD versus jiu-jitsu. And one of my interviews is actually sexual military trauma. So the fact that she's speaking up about it is huge, because
it's hard.
How many women do you know well, we wouldn't know, but how many women do you think were actually raped in the military and never said anything and are still living with those demons? And
majority.
So it's like people like you and people like her need to speak out about these things. I mean, you don't have to get into detail, but just speaking about it, because to let these guys know you're not alone. And that's why I started talking about my failed suicide attempt. Is because there's a lot of veterans who are going through something like that they don't want to talk about it because they feel like a pussy and they feel like they're the only ones that have done it. I
Yep.
put a gun to my head and I pulled the trigger. How many veterans have reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I actually did some dumb shit like this too," and it opened up a whole box. Pandora's box was open with these guys. And then
Hmm.
next thing you know, like a month or two afterwards, they reach out to me again and be like, "Hey, it felt really fucking good talking about that." I'm like,
Yeah.
"I know, because you just freed yourself from all those demons that are sitting there inside your head."
And that's the beginning of the healing. That's when it
Exactly.
starts. When
Hmm.
I finally came out, I mean, and it was hard.
Yeah, I bet.
Um, I have had female veterans that I served with, that I've worked with, that I know, that are close friends of mine and have
Mhm.
been for 20 plus years, that were carrying the same exact secret. And until I came out with mine, they privately told me theirs. And it's
Mhm.
like, I'm like, trust me, we are not alone. It's the
Mhm.
statistics are 1 in 4, you know? Um, and I would love to see obviously those statistics to go down, but more than anything, I want to see, of course, I equally want that to come down, but I want
Yeah.
the 22 to come down, because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't understand, they will think suicide, but they don't know why, what was behind it. And
Yeah.
it was usually a secret they were carrying that they just couldn't confront. And they don't understand, once you confront that secret and you start
Mhm.
dealing with it, like you said, just a whole weight comes off of you, and slowly but surely you start heading in the right direction.
Exactly, and there's almost always an underlying issue that is the main cause. There's always there. I guarantee you, everybody going through something, there is one thing that you could pinpoint that is not the cause of everything else, but the one that makes it worse. Or
Yep.
the one that really makes it hard or impossible to heal because you don't
Mhm.
address that one problem. But once we figure out what that problem is, which is what I try to do with the nonprofit, I just do it in a different way. We're racing race cars, we're climbing mountains, we're doing some cool shit that's people have always wanted to do. Like yesterday, we were just playing with wolves. I mean,
Oh,
that
that's so cool.
it's amazing. If you ever make it to Minnesota, please, please, please call me. I will take you up there.
Okay, for sure.
It's
My daughter
it's
loves
so
wolves, so do
much
I. I've
fun up
got two German shepherds in the room right now that look like wolves.
there. Yeah, most of these wolves are mixed with shepherd and malamute, so they're big.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are, like, you get in the cage with them and you look at them, it's like, God, you could rip my face off right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it's
amazing animals.
we just use these things as, it makes it a little bit easier for these things to come out, because what you're doing is you're putting them into a vulnerable state by making them doing something slightly dangerous or something that's outside the norm, and it opens them up to actually, to be more vulnerable with the past as well. So you're already
Mhm.
vulnerable because of the current situation, and then next thing you know, I start throwing some super personal stuff out there because I'm not afraid to talk about anything that I've been through. I've talked about all the bad things that I've done, all the good things that I've done, because I want people to understand that when you're open and you're free, when you free yourself from all of these things that are haunting you from your past,
Mhm.
nothing has power over you anymore. And you're
Right.
completely free to live your life, and you're free to explore new options and new ways of healing. And so
You know,
I open up and they open up. Works out.
yeah. I remember when I was going through the dark days before I got to where I
Mhm.
am now. It was about 3 years ago when I hit rock bottom, and I got as far as putting my daughter on a plane and getting her out of here while I figured out whether I was going to pull the plug or not. And one of my brothers, several of my brothers knew I was in dark times. I just don't know if maybe deep down they knew where I was, but I hadn't actually said it, right?
Mhm.
And he told me, he's like, you got to make friends with the demons. And I
Mhm.
was like, I don't want, no, I want to forget the demons. I don't want to
I
make
love
friends
this
with
guy
them.
already.
I want to, he goes, no, you got to embrace him. You got to, he's an
Yeah.
operator. So he
Mhm.
knows he's got demons. They all do.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, fuck that. I don't want to be friends with my demons. I want them to go away.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started healing and I started, just like you said, it started to get easy. More you talked about it, the easier it got to talk about it.
Yep.
And then when you started realizing, holy shit, I can help other people.
Mhm.
That just makes that, when you're helping other people, it helps you. Right.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
it's
It's
a two-way
addicting
street.
too.
Yeah. So it was, I think once I got the book out and I started donating, and I realized I wanted to donate to these organizations helping
Mhm.
people and all this stuff, I realized that's what he meant.
Yes.
I had to make friends with the demons in order to move forward. And
Yeah,
and
how can you use that as fuel? Those demons can
yeah,
be fuel. You can use them and you can let them break you down, or you can look them in the face and say, "Not today, motherfucker," and
right,
you can take control.
exactly. Yep, exactly.
Oh, it's funny too, because like when you hey Margot is awesome. I did a podcast with her. She's over in the UK. She was in the Air Force and retired over there.
Oh,
But
cool.
Margot and I had a great podcast too. You should listen to that one afterwards. I think it turned out to be pretty good.
Okay.
But it's just I said that a couple days ago to a veteran: is make friends with your demons. Look at them in the face and fucking laugh at them. Be like, you don't control me. I control me. There's a meditation. There's a meditation that I put some people through that's pretty intense and it's pretty dark. And I've actually had some people like start crying because it's a little too intense.
Wow.
It is like a full on line your demons up, put them all in front of you and stare them in the face. So usually what I do is I get comfortable, you get in a meditation state, which is like if you've never meditated before, you have what's called a body check, right? You get comfortable, sit in a position. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed and do this and go, you don't do that. Meditation's not about that. Some people do it just because it helps them, but just get comfortable. That's it. And then you're literally sitting there being silent. And so there's a lot of people out there like, well, I can't do it because I can't focus. Stop
I
focusing.
admit my mind spins 24/7, man. That's the one thing I've never really been able to do.
This way of meditation would actually be very good for you. So it's literally to the point where so many people want to try to focus, right? What are you doing when you're focusing? You're using your brain. You're using your brain and you're using some of your energy to focus. What you want to do is you want to just completely just be. You got to stop trying to focus. You got to stop trying not to focus. You got to stop trying to look at things and stop trying not to look at things. You just have to understand that.
That's the one thing. Hold on, man. I'm trying to fix something. I apologize. Right. There we go. All right, got it. I was trying to get to my phone where I could watch messages. Yeah. I haven't figured out how to do this yet, so I'm muting us so I can watch them. All right, now
it's actually easy to reply on your phone too, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
So what you do is you take away all focus from everything. So if you're sitting there and you're meditating, and next thing you know, either some trauma from your past comes up, and usually you're like, no, I don't want to think about that. Stop and just let it be. You got to think of yourself as a passenger in a car. You can't steer the wheel. You can't make it go faster. You can't make it go slower. You just need to sit there and watch it go by. And that's the best thing you can do with this style of meditation, because next thing you know, you're starting to think about, oh, I got to take care of this tomorrow. I got to do this tomorrow. That's okay. That's okay. Too many people think, oh, no, you're not supposed to do that. No, just be. If you start thinking about some trauma from your past and that's the path that you go down on that meditation session, then that's the path you go down. So what I like to do is I like to do my body check. I like to do it in a pitch black room because it's, for some reasons, maybe it's the atmosphere, I don't know. But I do it in a pitch black room. I do my body check and I get to the point where I can actually, I call it a trance, if you want to call it that, to the point where I am completely comfortable with who I am at the moment and I'm just relaxed. And then next thing you know, over time, the demons start coming in, right? And that can be anything from traumas from your past, suicide attempts, drug abuse, friends who have died. I held a hand of an army guy who shot himself underneath the chin with an M16 in Iraq. And I held his hand until he died because he was still alive when I got there. Yeah. So that I see Michael every day and I still see him every day. So this meditation made me understand you get to the point where, Margot said it, the theta state. So once you're in that theta state, it's the brain waves. If you go the scientific route, that's the way that your brain waves are. You're in the theta state. And you start looking at these demons and you just tell them like, look, you don't control me. I control me. That's the mantra that I say. So everybody has their own mantra. That's up to you to create. Mine is, you don't control me, I control me. And then you pretty much look those demons in the face, you tell them to fuck off. But you get to the point where you understand that they're going to be there. I expect to see Michael every day. If I don't see him, I feel a little weird because, it's been 10 years now. He died on January 6th, 2010. This year was his 10-year anniversary. And so I see him every day, and I've gotten to the point where I expect to see him. So when you expect to see something, you're training for a fight. If you don't train and you go into a fight, you're just going to get fucked up. But if you train for a fight and you train every single possibility, where the mind hasn't. Exactly. So if you're prepared for it, if you understand that, look, Michael's going to come tonight, I'm going to have his fucking head hanging off, and I'm going to look at him and I'm going to ask him, are you okay? How can I help you? That's what I started doing to myself. I started asking, like, how can I help you? And then Warriors Next Adventure came around, and it in my head, I created it. This is what he was doing. He was guiding me to help veterans. He was guiding me to help other people. And that's how I put it all together in my head. But
That's
you face
awesome.
your demons and you make friends with them. You
Yeah.
understand that they're going to be there. So you expect them to be there. Therefore, you take away their power.
No, yeah, it's hard. I think it's hard for people who haven't come to that point to really wrap their head around it and comprehend it. But once you get there, and I think the best way to get there is, I'm a big believer in veterans helping veterans. You know, if I could wave a magic wand and create a rule at the VA, it would be like, you can't be a shrink at the VA. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use that. That's not politically correct anymore. You can't, you can't be you can't be a counselor or a psychiatrist or whatever unless you're a veteran yourself. Because how in the hell? I mean, it's just me. How in the hell?
I agree 100%.
Should I trust you to understand my, my thinking, my experiences, unless you've been there yourself? Now, I know that's, maybe not possible, but, I wish, if I could have a wish, that would be it, because
I agree 100%.
It's just a natural trust. It's
Absolutely.
there. You don't have to build it.
And I think that's why I'm so effective, and the nonprofit is so effective, is because what I provide is a brotherhood. I provide a friend. I provide a battle buddy, a wingman, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just providing an environment of some fun, right? Some camaraderie, a sense of purpose, and something that's bigger than you. Because every time you come up to the Wolf Dogs and you help build a pen, or you help build a house, you're providing something for somebody else. You're bringing value to the world, and you're bringing value to yourself. And so when you actually understand that you can provide value, and then these veterans who see what I'm doing, they come along with some of the things that I'm doing, and then they want to start helping veterans. And it's like you said, Galen Miller is, he's like the godfather of Minnesota veterans. I've said this numerous times, and I'm going to keep saying it because I love Galen. He said to me when we first met, one of the best ways for veterans to help heal themselves is to help other veterans. Because when you become a piece of that puzzle, then they end up relying on you. So you're needed, right? So you feel that sense of being needed as well, because you're helping other veterans, because you are actually providing them with something that you need. In turn, you're getting provided with the knowledge and knowing that somebody needs you. So you can't punch the ticket,
Right.
You have to stay here. You have to help. You have to do something more that's bigger than yourself. And like I say all the time, WNA, Warriors Next Adventure, is bigger than me. I'm just the passenger.
Right.
I'm just doing what I'm told to do. Right. And I'm not saying like God is coming down and telling me to do these things. No, like, I'm not a religious person or anything like that. It's just, I feel like I see the potential. I have the ability to see the potential of what I can turn something into. I can mold the future inside my head before I actually make it happen. And so I take these things and I provide them for veterans. I get feedback, and then we keep doing it. Or if it sucks, we stop doing it, But it feels so good to help people, and then, with you actually ended up going into law enforcement. Are you still law enforcement?
I am.
You are. So like 20 years now?
Yeah, 20 years. I've been sworn 20 years. I'll hit my employment anniversary in May, because they were on a hiring freeze at the time I was getting in. So I literally worked for free for 9 months. And then, I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but, but it paid off, and I got my foot in the door, and,
nice.
And you were talking about some things about, 20 years I've seen some shit. I work in I can't say where I work, obviously, but I work in a pretty big metropolitan area. And I've seen my fair share of dead bodies, and I've held hands as they were dying. And, you don't forget those faces. You just don't, and, for me, I did a really, really good job of suppressing what happened in the Navy, in the Azores. I did a really good job of convincing myself, it was just a bad dream. It never happened. And that is how I dealt with it for 28 years. It was a bad dream. It never happened. Complete denial. And in 2017, I had one too many traumatic events on the job. And it was a series of bad events that happened within a 7-day period. I had 3 traumas in 1 week. And it was like, I tell people, it was like the Grim Reaper reached out of the freaking ground and was just pulling me down. And because I'd always been like, oh, people would be, oh, you're so strong. Oh, you're so resilient, and I was like, okay, well, it must be how I was brought up. That's just how I was. My mom always raised me, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and keep on going. And that's just what I did. So, but when you face 3 traumas in a 7-day period and you can't overcome one before the next one punches you in the face, I think that's enough to break anybody, or at least it was me.
Should be like mandatory time off or something like that.
Well, but the problem is at the time, one of the traumas was work related. The other 2 were personal. Okay. And I had a supervisor who was a dick. I mean, I'll just call it what it is. He was a dick. And I didn't trust him as far as I could throw him. So I was trying my best to separate my personal from my professional. And so, but internally I was juggling it all, and it wrecked me. It train wrecked me. And I went down the rabbit hole, as they say. And I called my best friend of 30 years. And he was the only person I trusted to tell what was going on in my head. But for the grace of God, he was horrible at answering his phone. The worst, just one of those, deaf and, I love you, dude. You know who you are, but you're not putting us in the phone. But,
we all got that one friend.
Yeah. But that day he answered, and I was hysterical. I couldn't even get off my bathroom floor. I was a train wreck. Yeah. And I told him I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I want to die. I can't do it. I got to go. And he's like, oh, hell no. And he kept me on the phone for 8 hours that day. And he talked some sense into me, told me that I wasn't alone, and said all the right things. And I started getting help, and that was the beginning. But it was a close call. I mean, like I said, I got as far as putting my daughter on a plane and sending her out of state because I didn't want her to be around when I did it. So, and my employer had no idea. I didn't want him to know. I'm like, no, they'll take my badge, they'll take my gun. At that point I had been in 17 years, and I'm like, I can't do, and nothing made sense. And, so, the guy I told you about in Montana, there's a whole chapter on angels don't come singing like choir from heaven. Angels come into our lives in all shapes and sizes, hairy chested, cursing sometimes, but they are what they are, and I look back in hindsight and I'm like, dude, that was an angel. That was an angel. That was all these people that got placed in my path over the next course of the next several months that brought something to the table that helped me, And the dude I was telling you about in Montana, he's the one that told me, you need to go to the VA. You need to get some help, and I'm like, I never reported it. There's absolutely nothing in my records. They're going to, there's nothing in my records that's going to back up what I'm telling you. He said, trust me, there's a program. And he was right. He was absolutely right. And so I personally went to the VA because I did not want my employer to know what was going on. I was keeping it a secret from them.
It's kind of hard in law enforcement because if you're honest about some of this stuff, like you're off the street, they're taking your gun and you're ostracized.
And I can't tell you, people don't realize, especially, I don't even know what the current numbers are, but prior to all this crap against law enforcement started, we were losing more law enforcement officers and firefighters, first responders, to suicide than we were line of duty. People didn't realize that. The problem is unlike veterans, they're not keeping track of it. We don't know the actual numbers. We can't say 22 a day, but we know it's way higher than it should be. And I'm terrified to see what the numbers are in 2020 because of what's going on right now. So I'm here to tell any first responders out there, don't be afraid to ask for help. I can tell you firsthand now, it is okay to ask for help because I reached out to my agency. Finally, I came out. I tell people like, and I told them in November, why I had taken so much time off, and it was for all my VA appointments. I'm like, look, this is why I'm low on sick time, because I was taking sick time to go to the VA. Yeah. And when I told them what had happened, they were very supportive. They were like, whatever you need. They even did a notice of injury for me, and And
Right.
it's that they've been very supportive. And so I'm glad to say, in Florida anyway, they passed a bill, for PTSD for first responders. I don't know how many other
Nice.
states have, but we are finally getting, the support that's been needed for, I think, a really long time. Because even I talk to firefighters, and you got to figure how many, traumatic accidents and crashes and babies and children, and they see as much maiming as I think probably combat veterans see. But the difference
See,
is
here's
the
the thing.
veterans see it when they're deployed usually, whereas in firefighting and cop work, we see it all the time for 20, 25 years, 30 sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
See, here's the thing. People don't understand PTSD. Do you know what the leading cause of PTSD is? It's car crashes. People want to sit here and think that it's combat. Combat is fairly small.
Yeah, I think it's any trauma.
Yeah.
Any trauma.
So it really can be, because
witnessing a death of anyone.
Yeah.
Children are at the top of the list.
Yeah.
And car crashes, I'm sure, would fall into that.
Well, it's even 911 dispatchers. So I'm a 911 dispatcher for the Minnesota State Patrol. So that's why I started the veteran first responder PTSD support group, because I feel like first responders, veterans have a lot of help. What anybody wants to say, I don't care what anybody says. Veterans have a lot of help. You have to reach out for it. That's the hard thing. Veterans want to say, "Oh, nobody's helping." There's plenty. You have to look. I don't think there's enough for first responders. And so that's why I started that group as well. And I always invite first responders. And when I say first responders, 911 dispatchers aren't technically labeled as first responders. I automatically mean you as well. So if you work in the emergency services, you are invited. But as a 911 dispatcher, I've had more traumatic shit happen to me as a 911 dispatcher than I did in the military. There's one lady scream that I'll never forget. She walked inside, called 911, and her husband was sitting there hanging in the basement. I had a baby die in her hands. I've watched people on the traffic cameras that I was talking to on the phone jump off of a bridge head first. And I've seen some pretty horrible shit. I myself am very good at dealing with my own traumas. I don't really see therapists. I have a lot of people telling me I still should, but I truly process everything. That's the difference between me and a lot of people who are struggling, because you don't process it. You bury it. When you bury these traumas,
compartmentalize it, and you put it in a box, and you don't touch the box anymore. Yep. No, I get it.
Well, you got to think about it like a ship sailing on the ocean. Every time you take some of that stress, or you take some of that stuff and you compartmentalize it and you put it at the bottom of the ship, your ship's going to sink. You got to open those boxes and you got to throw some of that shit out of there.
Do you have CISM up there?
I am not sure what that is, so I don't think so.
CISM, down here, CISM stands for Critical Incident Stress Management. We have teams down here now where we are a mixture of sworn and dispatchers, civilians, and we have some counselors on the team as well. What we do now is whenever there's a traumatic event, like a horrible car crash, officer-involved shooting, child death, anything that would, traumatize a first responder, we respond out to the responders.
There's something kind of like that up here. So if you're a part of a critical incident, you get invited to the debriefing.
Yeah. Well, here it's mandatory. If you're told to go, you go. And what we do, I'm on the team.
It should be mandatory.
Yeah. I'm on the team. So what we do is we go out and we let them know, hey, listen, if you start having nightmares, you find yourself drinking a little more than usual, you start finding yourself, lashing out at your loved ones. These are red flags. These are clues that you need to talk to somebody, and there's nothing wrong with it. We've all been there, and all of us have been. So especially for the new guys coming on that might be afraid they're going to be perceived as a wuss, you know what I mean? We're there to tell them as veteran officers, look, man, it's all right. We've been there. That's why we're sitting here talking to you right now. So you don't have to go down the rabbit hole like so many others do. So,
yeah. I just think that, I don't think anything's taken away from first responders, but I think first responders don't get the same mental health as veterans do. And I think that they should be held at the same level, because, like I said, a lot of veterans, it's somewhere around like 5% of veterans have actually seen combat, something like that. There's other shit that happens. I'm not saying that if you haven't been to combat, you can't be stressed out. That's not
Right.
what I
No,
mean.
absolutely.
They got sexual military trauma. You got things that may have happened at home. I actually crashed my motorcycle, and I actually have panic attacks from that. I crashed it going like 70 miles an hour and almost got hit
Mm.
by a semi, and I got flown like 30 feet in the air. So I think about that sometimes. Like, I sat on a motorcycle once and I threw up because I was shaking so bad and I got so hot. I was fucked up. And it's like, why can't I come back from that trauma? I don't get it. So I just stay away from motorcycles. But
Good call.
that alone,
I've seen
that
I've seen
probably
too many bodies from motorcycles,
yeah, I know, right?
so
Well, being
there's
a
no way.
dispatcher, I see so many people doing dumb shit on motorcycles. They're running from the cops, going 100 miles an hour on a bike. Don't do
Death
that.
wish. It's a death wish, man. Well,
Yeah.
and it's the thing I've heard from dispatchers. It never occurred to me, as the responders going to the
Yeah.
scene, we see it through. But I've heard dispatchers
Yep.
say, "Well, we get lost because once you guys get there, the call's disconnected, and we're left wondering what happened."
Yep.
And sometimes it's not near as bad as they thought it was, because they're just listening, and then other times it's just as bad as they imagined it was. You just, but they need that. What we've learned is they need
Yeah.
that closure. They need
Exactly.
to know what happened. I think some of the calls that bother me the most are the ones where, they got swept off to we did CPR, we brought him back, they got swept off to the hospital. I had one car crash, go figure.
Mhm.
And I was talking to him, the car was upside down, she was strapped in, I crawled in, she's begging me to undo the seatbelt for her because she's hanging upside down from it.
Yeah.
And, as bad as I wanted to do it for her, because I could tell, God almighty, she looked miserable. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what if, we were out in the middle of nowhere, we were in the boonies, and it seems like it was taking forever for the paramedics to get there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to her and I'm like, hey, listen, I want to unbuckle you, but I can't because, in my mind, I'm like, God forbid she's got internal bleeding and then freaking I unbuckle her and now she bleeds out internally. That's my fault. So all I could do was keep her company and pray that, she was going to be okay. But I never got closure on that one. To this day, I don't know if she survived, and I wonder. So
Yeah, it's really hard, and I think when my eyes woke up to what I truly want to do on this planet was, I think it was 2017. It was I was working dispatch. I usually worked West Metro in Minneapolis. It's the Minneapolis area, so it's like the busiest district of the state. So I dispatch for the state patrol. So we only deal with the highways. And I got a phone call saying, I fuck it, I hate my life, I'm gonna jump. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So we have the Annie Alleys. We can rely on the GPS location. Pulled her up, and we actually have access to the cameras, so I can control the traffic cameras and everything. She showed up, her GPS showed up right next to a camera. I turned the thing, and sure enough, there she is standing on a bridge over traffic, and it's rush hour. So, there's a lot of traffic going on. And so I talked to her for 45 minutes or so, come to find out she was a veteran. When I found out she was a veteran, instant connection. And I told her, listen, I was actually in the military as well, deployed 4 times. I spent a lot of time, in some pretty terrible shit. Come to find out, sexual military trauma. She was raped when she was in the Army, and she never told anybody about it. And so when she was telling me that, she's like, I don't think I've ever told anybody this. And so I'm just like, fuck. I was like, this feels good. Helping this person right now feels good. And it's, at first I felt bad because I was kind of taking a little bit out of that, like, oh, this is good for me. And it got to the point where after 45 minutes, I actually talked her to get down and get some help. And I sent my troopers were there, and I told them, I was like, just wait. I was like, don't go up to her. I'm talking to her. Because I talk on the radio and the phone at the same time. So I was telling my troopers, just wait and let me talk to her. Let me try to help her.
Once you get a connection,
herself.
you don't want to interrupt that.
Yeah. And I didn't want anybody to fuck with that. And so I eventually shared with her, saying like, listen, this was the first time I ever told anybody I tried to kill myself. And so telling her, listen, you don't want to do this. You're going to regret it. Back in 2015, I put a gun up to my head and I pulled the trigger because I thought that nobody cared about me. Nobody wanted me around. I thought it would just be easier if I wasn't around to, disrupt anybody's life.
Yeah, you feel like you're a burden. That's how I felt. I felt like I was failing as
exactly.
a mother, and my daughter would be better off being raised by somebody else.
Yeah, and it's
and
so
I mean, I know
selfish
I'm a good
too.
mom. I hear I'm a good mom,
Yeah.
but I felt like I was just so low
Mhm.
that I was going to be bad for her. Is how bad, you know what I mean? So I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's really sad to think that somebody gets to that point. I was there, you were there, she was there. And eventually, it was crazy though, it worked out perfectly. with me telling her that I tried to kill myself. She started to try to make me feel better. And then the
Aw,
next thing you know, she gets down off the bridge, and
that's
I'd
awesome.
never once have broke down crying at dispatch. But the whole time I was on that phone call, I was cool, calm, and collective. But the
It's the
second she
adrenaline
got
dump.
down,
The adrenaline dump.
oh God, the second she stepped down, the troopers grabbed her, and I saw them hug her. I dropped my headset down, and I broke down crying, and I walked out of that room, and I was like, I need a fucking minute. And I'm
Oh, I
getting
can
emotional just thinking about it.
I
But
get it.
I walk back in, and I sit down, and then 911, what's your emergency? You start going
Yeah.
off. It's like, you
Yeah.
got to fucking get back into it quick, but I
Yeah.
never really rehashed what that did to me, right? Even though it was a great result, it really fucked me up for a little bit. And then
Mhm.
I
Because
started to think more.
you know how
Mhm.
close it was.
Yeah.
You were right there. You
Mhm.
feel that. So, and I think what
Yeah.
makes it harder, it makes it better for them, for harder for us, is because we can so personally relate to it. And
Yes.
you think, oh my God, that was almost me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I get it. I
Yeah,
completely.
that was a crazy connection. But the cool thing is, like, the second that she got down, it lit a fucking fire in my soul, and I'm like, I need to do this more. And so, like,
Mm.
I started hoping that I would get the 911 calls, the suicide calls. So far I've stopped a guy from shooting up cops. He had a rifle and he was getting ready to kill some kids because his girlfriend broke up with him.
Oh
I
God.
actually found his phone number. I called him. Nobody else called him. Everybody had his number, but nobody called him. But I'm like, why is nobody calling this guy? And so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I overstepped my bounds a little bit, but he was still technically on the highway. It's still our call. So I called him and I actually talked to him. He's 17 years old. And sure enough, I got the cops to the house where I assumed he was going to his mom's house because I found out where his mom lived. I looked at the GPS. I found out where his phone was and where it was going to from Wisconsin to the west side. I'm like, he's going to his mom's house. I bet you money. And so I called the local police department and said, hey, I got a possible death by or suicide by cop. I'm talking to him right now. I need you guys to know that I am taking this call. I was like, but you guys need to get to the house and you need to get, surround it. I ended up getting him to go outside with his hands up in the air. They found the rifle. They found the rounds. He went and got help. Nobody died.
Mhm.
That fucking feels so good,
Oh, I know.
but it
Yeah.
still messes with you a
But
little
like
bit.
you said, then it's next call.
Yeah.
You get back in the car for us. It's you get back in the car, you open the laptop, and it's like 20 calls holding, and you're just like, send me the next one.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, yeah, sometimes we are grumpy. Sometimes we do
Mhm.
get a little bit edgy because we don't care that your kid won't get out of bed and go to school. People
Yeah,
do
you
call.
don't want me answering those phone calls. I'll make
And
that personal.
well, I mean, we get them, and it's like God forbid you really said what was on your mind, but even
Yeah.
then, sometimes it'll show in your tone or in your,
Yeah.
your body language,
I've gotten in
and
trouble a few times at dispatch for being a smart
yeah,
ass. But
and the thing is, people understand, I just came from a freaking dead kid, or I just came from a dying, a widow who's just got married to her husband who died in the night
yeah.
and woke up to a dead body. I'm like, people don't understand. We have a traumatic call. We just literally go on to the next. And if the next one happens to be stupid and petty, and then they complain because we were rude, it's like, you don't understand. We are still human beings. We're not robots. We still have emotions, but sometimes we don't get the chance to decompress after those calls that we probably should.
And you need to take care of yourself. And this goes to any first responder. I know I'm not a cop. I mean, I was technically security forces in the military, which is like a cop,
Military police,
technically. I mean, we were raised as cops. We were trained as cops. We acted as cops. I was in a patrol car. So I know what it's like to be on both sides of the radio, and then you have like EMS, you have fire, you have all these people who deal with this stuff consistently, but they don't get help. Even if you think you don't need help, you should talk to somebody. You should talk to a buddy, have that 3 a.m. friend, somebody you can talk to, be like, hey man, this call was really fucked up today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually talk and share, and you can be vulnerable without worrying about being judged. You need that
you're
friend.
absolutely right. You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
So
anyway. We should move on. The book is called Courageously Broken. What made you decide to write this book?
Well, I didn't sit down. Here it is. There it is right there.
I love the cover, by the way, with the teal ribbon.
Thank you. My
good touch.
Can I brag for a moment?
Yes, that's what you're here for. Brag.
My daughter designed my book cover. She is 14 years old, getting ready to turn 15.
She did a fantastic job.
She did. She designed it, and then I sent it to a graphics artist who has the software to bring it to the next level. But she is the one who came up with the idea, and I absolutely love it. It's got the dog tags and everything on it. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah, she did. So Sam did that, and then what made me write the book? So some friends of mine, Kim, if you're out there, I think you're watching right now. They hold this awesome get together every year for veterans to come around, and we all camp in a big old pasture with a big old bonfire and roast, pig. Dude, we have the best time. And we sit around and we share old stories and remember when this, and you know how it is, the old war stories. And some of the stories that were getting shared were like, oh, come on, don't you remember when? And I'm like, no. They're like, you were there. And what I started learning is not only did I suppress the bad stuff, but I had suppressed a lot of the good stuff. Things that, everybody's sitting around laughing their asses off. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, they're telling me I was there. Why would they lie about it? And, it was like some of my memories were like snapshots, but I couldn't remember the whole story. It was bugging the shit out of me. So I started talking to my counselor about it. And I'm like, hey, listen, I really want to remember some of this good stuff. It sounds hilarious, and I could use laughs. So she's like, do you journal? And I'm like, no, not really. I'm like, but I do like to write. I've always enjoyed writing. I mean, as a cop, how many police reports do we write? I write all the time. So I'm like, no. And she says, well, why don't you try that? She said, and just start keeping a diary about the old times, and I'm like, all right, I can do that. So I started with my childhood, because there was childhood memories I couldn't remember. There were things my mom would get frustrated with me about all the time. Like, how do you not remember that? I'm like, that. She goes, that was a big deal. I just don't remember. And so I started with my childhood and I worked forward. And when I would get to a part I wanted to remember, I would reach out to someone that would have known and say, hey, do you remember this? And they would say, oh, yeah. I'm like, walk me through it. So as they would walk me through it, I would journal about it. And it was helping me, almost like putting the pieces of a puzzle back together, like I had part of the pieces and somebody else had part of the pieces. And together we put the puzzle together. So it started off as a journal. And as I got a few what became chapters, when I got a few of those in, or in other words, a couple decades of my life, I sent them to that same best friend I told you about. He knows every skeleton in my closet. He knows every detail of my life. And I sent it to him and I'm like, what do you think? And he took a couple days. He read it. He told me back, he goes, this is freaking awesome. He goes, it's funny. It's real. It's raw. He goes, if you're comfortable with it, he goes, I think you might be able to help some people with this. Keep going. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So
it's funny how a lot of these books that talk about the past that are trying to deal with trauma and everything, they forget the funny stuff. There's a lot of funny stuff that we've been through.
No, I've had people who are veterans and not veterans both tell me it made me laugh. It made me cry. And for the civilians, they tell me it made me see things through sets of eyes I didn't even know existed. Never thought about it from that perspective. My foreword is written by Don Mann, who is a New York Times bestseller, retired Navy SEAL from SEAL Team 6. And Don wrote my foreword because we served together in Panama. And
for those who don't know, and because I'm dumb and I don't know, what's a foreword?
A foreword is it's someone that kind of writes like an intro to your book in the beginning of it. In my case, it's Don. Okay. First of all, do you know how many fake Navy SEALs there are?
Probably a lot.
Shit tons. Too many. Okay. Shit tons. And the last thing I wanted anyone to think was, who's this chick saying she worked with the SEALs? So for me, it was an honor that Don did this, an incredible honor. And it gave my story credibility. Because I can sit here and say, Don is a New York Times bestseller. Everybody knows who he is. Google him. He's an incredible human being. He's climbed Everest. He's written books about adventure races. He is the god of adventure. Okay. Both in the military.
I need to link up with him then.
Don Man, 2 N's on man.
Yeah.
So Don was awesome because I'm like, once I got the book written, it was like, all right, I got it. Now what do I do? When he was a published author, and I called him and I sent it to him, and he read it, and he wrote my foreword. Like, just, it was a huge honor. And he what I liked what he said was that even he got a perspective he never knew existed. He got to see what things were like through a woman's eyes.
Yeah.
It is. I tell you, you're right. We're all brothers. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you say sister or not, we're all one team. With that said, we're still different genders. And because of that, we are different. We're more
different experience. That's
you
for
guys
sure.
are more analytical.
Well, it's true too, because like everybody, me and you could go through the exact same experience, but experience it differently. And that's something that people don't understand. We could be in a firefight and I have a bullet whizzed by my head and you don't have anything and you're fine and I'm fucked up, and so that's what people don't understand is,
and we're wired differently. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
We're wired differently. We're built differently. I tell people all the time, especially women, good for you. You can do anything a man can do. I'm like, well, I still can't pee standing up. So I don't know what to tell you. So,
yeah, hey, all of our girls overseas had weenuses, so technically you can get some help.
I'm like, look, we're equal all day long. We are equal, but we are different. And I think that people who don't accept their differences, I find them to be a threat, because that means you don't know your limitations. And we all need to know our limitations, and we need to be big enough that we can say, you know what, this is out of my wheelhouse. I think this might be better for you to kind of handle, because you've got more experience than I do. But so I like what Don said. He got to see what things were like through not only a non-SEAL, but a female perspective. I did, there's a whole chapter on an op a training op I volunteered to go on, and I spent 10 days in the jungle with the guys, because at the time, being my naive 21-year-old self was like, I can do what you guys do. I can hang, I can do it. They're like, yeah, okay, here we go. I came out of there, I'm like, yeah, where do I sign? Women don't belong doing this shit. I don't, I'm like, I'm out. I'm like, I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. Yeah. One of my most proudest moments is that I didn't quit, because I had plenty of opportunities to quit. But I was like, no, I volunteered for this shit and I'm going to finish it. but when it was all said and done, they, would you do it again? Nope. I'm glad I did it.
It's kind of like the military. Yeah, it's like the military. If you asked me again if I would go back in the military right now, and fuck no. I was like, I would, if I could go back, I would do it all over again for sure.
I could go back with hindsight. I would do it all over again.
Yeah. That would make it easier.
I could go back knowing what I know now. I would do it.
I'd be a lot less ignorant.
My daughter wants to be a doctor in the military.
Oh, nice.
So, I'm like, all right, well, I support her 1,000%. I'm like, but you're going to go in with the wisdom I didn't have.
Yeah, I'm going through the same thing with my daughter. She's 9 years old, and she wants to be a veterinarian. Her thing, she's changed a million times. She's only 9, but I keep telling her, I was like, the military is always a viable option. You can go in for a few years, get out, and you can go to school for free. You don't have to start your life with debt. And so she likes that idea so far, because she thinks it'd be cool to travel. She's like, wait, you get paid? I'm like,
yeah, that was me.
Yes, you get paid.
I want to travel and get paid.
Well, the best part for me was like, I had no interest in school. Like, since I've been out of the military, I've gone to school here and there. I mean, I have a 4.0 now, but I actually care. I didn't care back then. I didn't want to join college. I joined the military because I could be a cop in 6 months, or I could go to school for 2 years, go through training, and be a cop in 4 years. I'm like, fuck that. I'll just go be a cop right away.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I was the same way. I just from small town, not a good family life, and I just was like, I got to get out of here. And the military was get out, So
it was a good out for a lot of people. It's the military is not what a lot of people think. It's a learning experience. It's travel, exploration, all these things.
It teaches discipline. It teaches responsibility, accountability, work ethic. I mean, there's so many good things. I'm one of the people, and I wish they'd bring the draft back. And if anything, just boot camp.
I think everybody
build it back up again, And then if you want to stay in, stay in. If you don't,
Mhm.
go on. But at least, teach some patriotism and some understanding of how this country got to be where it is today.
I agree 100%.
You know?
Hey, so I've always wanted to ask, I've talked to a few others, but how has your experience in the military helped you in your law enforcement career?
Um, Firearms for one thing. I was blessed in that team guys taught me how to shoot. I graduated my academy at the top, beat every jarhead and Army guy in there, which, as a chick from the
Yeah.
Navy kind of pissed him off, but I took pride in it because I was the sleeper. I didn't brag,
Yeah.
I didn't talk any shit. I
Well, at
just,
least you weren't an Air Force girl. That might have pissed him off even more.
I just kept laid low. I just did my thing, and by the end, they realized that I was the sleeper. I came out of nowhere, and I haven't lost a bet yet on the range, so that's kind of fun. But I also know who to place my bets with. I know how to pick them. But
well, we'll have to talk offline. But
instructor.
I'll actually be in Florida May-ish. But maybe we can get some range time in when I get down there.
All right, yeah. I'm a firearms instructor. I love.
I'm not going to challenge you because I'm probably going to lose, but I still like to go.
I am getting older, so, and you might get me because I just had shoulder surgery. So
Oh, okay.
that's why I'm able to do this stuff. I've been out
All
of work.
right. I changed my mind. The bet's on.
I'm getting old and broken. But let's see. So definitely firearms. I would say as a woman, it helped me understand what it was like to be in a boys' club. I was only 2 women at the SEAL unit I was in. It was all guys and mostly team guys. And it taught me how to be, I wasn't thin-skinned. So when
it makes me happy to know that they treated you like as the Brotherhood, that makes me happy.
I can't even begin to tell you, even when they don't get me wrong, they joked with me. They gave me plenty of shit, which is where I got the thick skin. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it was, you knew you were loved because they were picking on you. You know what I'm saying? If it's one of those things where like veterans, we give each other so much shit. I mean, we're rude to each other sometimes.
You should start a nonprofit. You should see the amount of shit that you're going to get from other veterans. It's nonstop.
But when you're giving shit back and forth, they love you. If they're ignoring you, you're not liked. You're ostracized. That's how you know you're not liked. So it taught me that. So when I went into law enforcement, when I went out on the road and, citizens would fuck you, bitch, you fat cow, blah, 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 or whatever dirty name I was being called, my skin was thick enough that I didn't take it personal. It was like, all right.
Oh, well, you're so sweet.
I'd be like, man, I ain't even flipped the bitch switch yet. You ain't seen nothing yet. And they'd be like, what? So, it's
always good when you can degrade yourself too, because then they kind of lose that power.
Exactly.
Like I get called a fag all the time because I got long hair. And so I was like, oh, I mean, I know that name is not fun, but sometimes veterans use it with each other. But it's funny too, because I just look at him, I was like, how does it feel to know a fag can kick your ass? Because I was a cage fighter. I mean, it's like,
see, I think more hippie. I'm more of like a hippie. I'm like, you got long hair, you're a hippie. My daughter saw some pictures of me in the years after I got out of the Navy, and I had like the red, before I became a cop, and I had like the red nails that came out to here. She's like, Mom. And I'm like, girl, I had to go through my rebellious stage. I said, I decided to get the red nails and the fake nails. And I look back now and I realize how silly that was. But I'm like, that was the only way I had to rebel. And that was my rebellion. But
I think I grew a beard right when I got out of the military, and it was like down to like my chest. And I was like, yeah, I got a beard.
Yep, that's that rebellion coming out. So funny. But so it made me thick-skinned. It made me not take shit personal. I think it made training easier for me, because I had that background. I used my GI Bill to get me through the academy. It gave me, I don't know, it gave me a lot of things and tools that I've been able to use throughout my career. And it's funny because, and I really don't want to talk too much about it, but I did actually, when I first got out of the Navy, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And believe me, law enforcement was the last thing I expected to do. And there's all that's in the book. But I ended up in corporate sales, believe it or not, because it was just like my family was doing it. It was a job opportunity. I needed a job and I took it. And in sales, I learned how to be a chameleon. I learned how to real quick find commonality with people. So like what you were talking about with the girl on the bridge, as soon as you were able to build that commonality,
Yep.
I think that's a huge tool that we need in law enforcement. So
You
if
need
you're
to be able to relate to people well.
you need to be able to relate to people, and sometimes I have to be like flip the bitch switch. You try to be nice, you try to be nice, you try to be nice, and nice isn't getting in you anywhere. They're just But then the minute you flip the switch and you come right back at them with the same aggression, it's almost like some people, it's the only way to get their respect. And that's the only way to get them to back down. And then sometimes I'll even throw a little humor into that aggression. And then I've actually had them shake my hand. Oh, you know what? You all right. I've had them come out of cars right out of a traffic stop cursing me out because I only stopped them because of whatever race they were. Right. I'm like, dude, I haven't even said a word and you're already making accusations. Now you got a choice. You can be a jerk and I can let the paper do the talking, or you can be quiet and just listen to me and you might just walk away with a warning. I'm going to leave that choice up to you. And they just stand there and they go like, you steal that win from them. And then they're going to go, all right, I'm listening. And then you just calmly speak your mind. And I'm one of those, when I put the uniform on, I promised myself I wasn't ever going to be that asshole cop. I wasn't going to do it. As long as people treated me with respect, they were going to get the same thing back. And I've 20 years, I'm proud to say I've kept that promise. I will not, for me, it's not a power trip. For me, it's truly about helping people, and I have, that is the one thing I've enjoyed about my career and regret at the same time. I enjoy the moments when they come where I genuinely get to help someone, but I regret they don't come often enough. They're far and few between, which, there's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. I've given advice to countless people who's in domestic violence situations and said, you've got to leave. That's your only choice. Until he or she gets help themselves. Because then sometimes, it's the woman, I've met some women who had all their shit together, but the minute you put some alcohol in them, they're the meanest damn drunk on the planet. Oh, yeah. And, when they're grabbing an iron frying pan and breaking their husband's face, I mean, and it sucks because you see, like, here's this person who's got it all together, but they got a drinking problem and it's turning them into a completely different person. So,
it's crazy how substance can completely change your personality.
Oh yeah, it completely does. And, you talk to the victim and you say, hey, listen, God forbid, this is going to go too far one day, and maybe you leaving them is the rock bottom they need to hit to get their shit together, and you go back to the same house over and over and over again. And you want them to listen because you've seen it happen so many times in your career that you can predict this is where this is going to go. When they listen, it's great. When they don't listen, it sucks.
Yeah, it's like, you can't make somebody do anything, but it's like all you can do is really give the best advice. And that goes towards like veterans too. It's like, listen, I could sit here and I could sell you, everything all day. And I could tell you all this advice that will help you. But if you don't apply it to your own life, it's never going to work. Like that lady from earlier today. It's like, you're taking everything and you're shooting it down before you give it a shot. And you're just automatically assuming that other people are just out for money grabs or other people are just trying to get popular. I've been accused of just trying to get famous. I was like, I don't know. If 600 or 6,000 people on Facebook is famous, woo! That's not what it's about at all. It's all about helping people. It's just when you live your life based off of truly being passionate about helping people, your life has no limitations.
Oh, yeah. And that's I think something about the book that I've learned. I've told people writing this book was easy. Once I started, it flowed, man. I was averaging 1 and 2 chapters a night. I wrote this book in probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when that's with Christmas Christmas break in between. I started November, I finished it mid-February, and I took Christmas off. But the publishing part, getting the word out, that has been hands down the biggest challenge. And I can tell you, and Don warned me about this, you will not get rich writing a book. And damn if that ain't the truth. Because by the time you figure what it costs to buy the license, buy the copyright, get it uploaded, get the publishing done, the printing done. And in my case now I've got to add in shipping because any pre-orders I'm signing and I'm sending back. and I'm donating 10% to some outstanding organizations. I think, I have a couple of people think, God, 20, $30 for a book. And I'm like, yeah, but okay, it's a hardcover and it's got a lot of expense built in there. And I'm donating 10% to some badass organizations.
Yeah.
So I promise you, I am not getting rich on this. That is not my intention. Because he's like, are you going to retire early? And I'm like, not on the book, not on the book, but, and that's okay. That's not why I wrote it. I wrote it because I'm really, truly hoping it will help people, but at the same token, I'm a single mom on a cop's income. I ain't rich. So I got my expenses. Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to cover my expenses. That's it.
Yeah, well, I ordered mine today after looking through it and everything like that. So hopefully I'll get that read, by the end of the year. I no promises though. I've been reading Tribe. Tribe's only like 100 pages, and I've been reading that for like 3 months. But what organizations?
People send me their books, and now I'm like, oh shit! Like I'm multi-reading, and I'm like you. Yeah. I'm one of them. I'm like a slow reader. So I get it.
Well, I had a TBI in 2018, so reading for me is actually really hard.
Yeah.
So I have to read a paragraph sometimes twice to actually understand what it's trying to say, because it's hard for me to put pieces together.
I don't have a TBI, but I've had that problem since I was a child. Reading comprehension. Yeah. It's always been a struggle for me. So I sympathize. The organizations that it helps are, for right now, I've picked 3. This is subject to change as time goes on. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where this is going to go. But the first 3 that I picked were Boot Campaign, who are amazing folks out of Texas. They help veterans who suffer from all types of disabilities, to include MST, TBIs, quadriplegics, paraplegics, amputees, you name it. They fund various different places that treat veterans. So in my case, they are helping me get to the Cooper Clinic in Dallas, Texas, which is a world-renowned medical facility. From what I'm told from my workman's comp psychiatrist, freaked out when I told him the opportunity I had through Boot Campaign. He said, this is the place celebrities and CEOs go. This is top-notch medical care. So Cooper Clinic is in Dallas. Boot Campaign works with them for anything that's TBI and psychology and maybe other things, but they do that. Then they also send veterans out to a place in Virginia Beach called VHP, which is Virginia High Performance. Okay. That is a holistic healing facility that was put together by a former SEAL Team 6 guy, and it's what a lot of the operators go through. You know how in the off season NFL players go and they get treatment, for any kind of concussions, physical fitness, physical therapy and all that stuff. This is designed from the NFL off season camps. So they designed it originally for SEAL Team 6 guys. And when Ollie retired from the teams, he started one for veterans. And it does the same thing, only these are people that are already out. It does, they have chiropractic, they have hyperbaric chamber treatment, they have nutritionalists, the physical fitness. And I've got friends who are operators who've gone through it, who tell me they feel 20 years younger when they leave there, heads in a better place. The goal is to get off the meds. We all know the VA likes to push meds,
and way too many veterans reaching out to me about medication.
None of us like it. So VHP is a lot of holistic healing, as is Boot Campaign. They push it. Boot Campaign was started by Morgan Luttrell, who is this twin brother of Marcus Luttrell from Lone Survivor. So that's who's behind Boot Campaign. And the 2 organizations, Lone Survivor Foundation and Boot Campaign, to my understanding, I'm not an expert on this, but from what I understand, the 2 organizations work closely together. Obviously, the guys are twin brothers and both team guys. So so Boot Campaign, I could go on and on and on about all the things they do. My best advice is just look them up and look at their website, because they do so much. The other organizations are Canine Academy and Brothers and Sisters in Arms. Both of these organizations are now, Good Canine Academy is out of Texas. They train and donate service dogs solely for the purpose of PTSD, and I think also TBIs for veterans. I am a huge believer in service dogs. Saint, come here. Saint, come here, buddy. Meet mine. Up. This is my buddy. Well,
Oh, cute.
Yeah, that's my boy. Mwah. Okay, he was taking a nap on the floor. He's like, whatever, Mom. So, good boy. Lots. So, yeah, he saved my life. He was given to me by one of my brothers who had kept him for himself, but had 4 shepherds in the house already, and told me, Donna, you need him more than I do, and he needs a good home. And Saint ended up a service dog by accident, but I will tell you that getting him was another big angel that turned things around for me. Yeah. And I've talked to so many other veterans who have told me their dog saved their lives. They were ready to check out. They had the gun to their head when their dog distracted them and gave them just what they needed to reevaluate themselves for that moment and get help. So I know for a fact, scientifically and from firsthand knowledge of talking to veterans, that service dogs are saving lives.
They're connected to us too. I mean, like most typical dogs are fairly connected to their owners, but these service dogs are actually trained to see, certain things that most people don't. I mean, there's been accounts of them like predicting heart attacks and stuff like that.
Yes,
with many different. It's insane what they can do.
Sugar, the list goes on and on. It's truly amazing what these dogs are capable of, and the senses that they have, and the things that we can train them. Like my friend I told you about, it saved his life because he has a heart condition from his traumatic nightmares, and his dog is trained to wake him up before the nightmares get out of control, and that has saved his life. Because they told him he was.
They think that that's part of the reason why I'm having my heart issues too. Because like even though I consider myself doing,
I mean, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I can only tell you from my friend's experience, and I'll give you his 411 when we go off.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to him.
Definitely put you in touch with him because he had a serious heart condition, and it was because of his nightmares. Yeah. And he was probably one or 2 bad ones away from having a heart attack and dying in his sleep. And the guy's young. He's young. He's not.
Yeah, I stop breathing at night all the time. I've actually woken up because I was suffocating, and my girlfriend constantly gives me shit for not going in and getting help, and I'm like, well, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And all the time she's like, how's your heart? How you doing? Are you sleeping well? She's woken me up probably 10, 15 times. Like, hey, you're not breathing. I'm like, God, it's just
the dog will do it. The dog will do it. I'm telling you, it can be trained. My friend taught his. It's the funniest dog. It's a pug. It's the last service dog breed you would ever imagine in a million years to be a service dog. It is a. I remember service dog. I think it's a pug or a Pekingese. It's in that group somewhere with the smashed face. But but he did. He trained this dog. He did a sleep study. He learned what the early signs were of him going into the nightmare. So then he basically taught his dog how to recognize the early signs of the nightmare coming on. And now the dog sleeps with him, wakes him up if the nightmare starts, and he comes out of it. It's awesome because it interrupts that cycle in his brain. He's and like, dude, the guy's like a PhD now. He knows inside and out about all this stuff. He's so smart. It's crazy.
Yeah. But, I'd love to chat with him a little bit about that, because I'm trying to. There's a place up here in Minnesota, Patriot Service Dogs, I believe, and they will actually train and donate dogs for free as long as you qualify. You have to have some sort of letter from your doctor. And there's a veteran who recently reached out to me. He reached out to me months ago. And then I found this out, and then I was like, this guy needed it. So I called, or I'd sent him a message. I was like, hey, you're the one looking for a service dog, right? And so we start chatting a little bit. I was like, send your information to this person. I know 2 veterans who've gotten dogs from these guys, and they have absolutely saved their lives.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's not just like an actual physically saving their lives, but just mentally bringing them back.
Yeah. It's miraculous, actually. Well, the other one is Brothers and Sisters in Arms, and from what I'm understanding, their home plate is Louisiana. And they have put people through their program who have now opened up their own locations in mostly Southeast states. There's not one in Florida, but
what kind of program is it?
It is also trains canines for the sole purpose of
Oh,
PTSD.
gotcha.
The difference between them and Good Canine is Brothers and Sisters in Arms do both first responders and veterans.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And if you are a first responder with a disabled child, i.e. epilepsy, seizures, any disability that a service dog would help, they will also donate a dog for the children of first responders with needs.
Oh,
So
wow,
that's pretty cool. Because
cool.
yeah, I've got a friend whose daughter has got type 1 diabetes, and the dog can pick up on the blood sugar ahead
Seriously?
of time. Oh yeah, it's telling you, the more you learn what these dogs can do, it's incredible.
That's really cool. It
So for
seems like
now,
you picked some good organizations to
I did.
get the
I
funding.
think I
Yeah, that's
did.
awesome.
Yeah, but
That's
the
awesome.
thing is, there's so many I want to help. So
Yeah.
so where I'm hoping is, like, these are my organizations for now.
Mhm.
But I've had other people come forward and say, well, this is what we do, and this is what we do. I mean, there's the Navy SEAL Foundation, and because I
Yeah.
have such a huge connection to the brothers, at some point I want to put them on my list. But they have a lot of people really donating to them. They do
Yeah.
so many really, really good fundraisers on their own. They're well established. They've got that trident going for them
Mhm.
that I felt like, and I know how hard it is to fund canine training facilities. I mean, it's
expensive.
it is very, very expensive. And the reason I picked two is because most places can only do so many dogs a year, because there's a lot of time and training put into it. So I picked two different places, hoping I could help more dogs to more people.
Mhm.
So if the book takes off, I can afford to do more. I'm definitely open to it. It's just, I got to see, for now, that's where I'm at. It's 10% at $30 a book. That's $1 a book to each one of those
Nice.
places.
Well, they each get $1 today because I bought one, so I'm excited to read it.
Awesome.
I'm excited. Kind of like what the guy who wrote your foreword is saying, that he saw it through the eyes of a female. I'm excited to read that too, because I do talk to a lot of females, and it seems like maybe 99% of them, their trauma is sexual military trauma, and it's hard for them to talk about because they think that because I'm a guy, they think that I'm not going to understand. And there's a lot more going on than people would understand. And it's like, you don't have to talk to somebody who's been through the exact same thing as you, but somebody who's been through some pretty severe trauma. Usually you guys can have some sort of connection. Plus we're veterans. Plus, we deployed, or, there's a lot of, like you said, being a salesman, you got to be able to relate. And I think that's something that I've been blessed with, is the ability to be relatable. And I think that's the reason why what I do works so well. Plus, again, playing with wolves, race cars. I mean, that's all fun. So,
Yeah. Well, I think what made me come around to ask for, like, I wasn't even going to seek VA benefits. I was being pushed to, you deserve this, you deserve this. I'm like, no, there's guys out there missing legs. There's, people out there in wheelchairs. No. I wanted help, but I didn't want financial help. And one of my brothers, who has lost his leg, believe it or not, twice, and had it reattached twice. He's a badass. And he's ran an Ironman. But he told me, Donna, he goes, I'd lose my leg a third time before I would go through what you went through. And that was a statement that stuck with me. And I was like, what? He goes, I can't, he goes, I've got daughters. I can't even imagine. And I'm like, and that was back, when I was first starting to get healing and first starting to begin to talk about it. And he really pushed me to pursue my benefits. And it was my brothers that found me my advocate that helped me get my benefits, So for the women out there who've been through MST and can't talk about it, I can first and foremost, I want you to know my book is not the men are evil. We are man hating women's club. That's not at all what this book is about. It is that, yes, there are some assholes out there in this world, but not all men are bad. And it's just like, what cops are going through right now. Yeah, there's some bad apples in the bunch, but 99% of us are good. And there's shitheads in every walk of life, profession, and so on. But I want people to understand this book isn't about, oh, the military's bad and, you know, look what happens to all these women. It's not. I would go in the military all over again with the hindsight of knowing what I know now, you know, because knowing what I know now, I would have kicked the son of a bitch in the nuts and I would have screamed for help. That's what I would have done, right? And I would have reported it, you know. But that's hindsight.
I'm glad you say that, because there was one who called and we were talking about that, and she reached out saying that, you know, she was raped and she doesn't want to say who it was. And I will never tell anybody who I talked to about this stuff, because that's confidential between the two of us.
Yeah.
But she wasn't going to report him. I was like, you have the fucking duty to report that bastard, to get his ass kicked out of the military, because he should not have a uniform on. A. B. If it happens again, how are you going to feel about that?
And that has been the hardest part for me. Yeah. And I will tell you that I don't know if I am ever going to get over the guilt that I carry, because it haunts me. Yeah. How many others did he do this to? How many others are there? I would come out now and I would rake that son of a bitch across the coals on the internet. Mind you, you know, we didn't have the internet back then. I'm old. But if I could find that son of a bitch today, I would have no qualms in raking him over the coals. But I unfortunately cannot remember his last name. Mm-hmm. I remember his first name and I can remember what he looked like. But other than that, I can't remember, because he wasn't a boyfriend. It wasn't a date rape. It was a creepy dude that had been bothering me, who abused his authority when he was on watch one night, used his master key and entered my barracks room. So
see, as a brother, yeah, I want to kill him right now. I mean, if there's anybody in the world, it's people who rape and people in pedophiles. I mean, those are two people that don't deserve to breathe. And you know, especially knowing that happened to you, you were in the military. If that happened to any of my sisters when I was in the military and I found out, I would go to fucking jail and beat the living shit out of that guy. So I would say personally, anybody in the military, anybody who has gone through this, you know, speak out, you know, say something, tell somebody, you know, tell one of your brothers, tell one of your sisters, but most of all, report that son of a bitch, because he's probably going to do it again.
Exactly.
Shitty people don't, it's really hard for shitty people to change.
Yep. You know, and it sucks. It sucks. You know, there's nothing I can do to change it. It was 30 years ago. But if I were to give advice to any young woman going in the military or in the military right now, I would be like, trust your gut instincts. I had them about him. He did give me the creeps. Trust your gut instincts and don't be afraid to fight. You know, fight like your life depends on it. So, and I mean, that's it. Yeah. And as far as those who it happened to many years ago, it might be too late to get justice, because, you know, there is statutory limitations. But it's never too late to out them. Yeah.
Speak up. Yeah. And the good thing is too, is like, from what I can tell about you, just based off of our conversation here, you don't use it as a victim card. You say, yes, this happened to me, you know, this sucked, but you use it as fuel. That's what I tell people all the time. The traumas from our past, use them as fuel, because you don't have to sit here and play the whole victim game, like, you know, and crying about it and everything. I get there's emotions. I get you're going to cry. I get that. I'm not saying don't get emotional about it. But what I'm saying is, don't let it control your fucking life. You know, use that as fuel. Help other people. Don't let it break you. Yes, don't let it break you. Write a book about it. You know, get people out there. Tell people your experiences so they know that they're not alone, because it happens to more people than anybody would want to admit. And the best thing you can do is share your trauma, because you have no idea who's been through the same thing, and your story could help save a life.
It could, you know, and countless others, because who knows how many down the road they would do it to, you know. If you're the one that stops them, then you don't know how many you've protected. I got a little bit of shit about the title of my book, because somebody's like, Donna, you're not broken. You're far from broken. And I'm like, well, I know, but, you know, even though I understand people perceive me that way, and although, you know, it might be true, it's how I perceive myself. You know, there are parts of me that do feel broken, you know, but you're right. I'm not I don't want to play the victim card. I don't want pity. I don't want the woe is me. I just want to people understand that, some of us, one of my reviews, I loved one of my reviews. It was when I first met you, and I've only met this person once. I don't know them very well. But they said, when I first met you, God, you seem like you had your shit so together. You seem so this, so that. And I'm like, she goes, I had no idea how much you've been through. I can't believe it. And I'm like, a lot of times we meet people and we have no idea, what made them who they are today or what they're carrying. You cannot judge book by its cover, as they say.
No, exactly.
So
well, like Beth just said in the comments here, she said she's not a veteran or first responder, but your advice is applicable to everyday life in all situations, and that's absolutely true. So that I tell people all the time, and I make sure they know, like, I am speaking to veterans, I'm speaking to first responders, but it does not mean that it doesn't apply to everybody.
College girls. One in four college girls, 1 in 4 military, 1 in 4. It's most women, believe it or not. It's 1 in 4, most women. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, it's just the military. It's not. For me, it was, but it's honestly 1 in 4. Think about how many girls in college have been, something slipped in their drink and they woke up and they know something happened, but they have no idea what it was. As a police officer, do you know how many of those reports I've taken? There's a lot. There's a lot
more than anybody wants to know.
It is a lot more than I'm terrified of my kid going off to college.
Well, it seems like you have the attitude and the experience to at least get her prepared.
Yeah, maybe a little prepared. She walks around thinking, I hear her lecturing her own friends. Are you stupid? You can't be talking to people like that. You don't know.
Yeah. Well, hey, tell everybody where they can get your book. I have the link in the description, so anybody can click on that. But what's the best way for anybody to go check out your book?
Okay, well, they can buy it from directly from the publisher site, which is www.gsm, as in Gulf Sierra Mike, books.pub. And I think it's /coming-soon. That'll take them directly to the order page. Or they can just go to the book website, which is courageously-broken.com. And I believe if they scroll to the bottom of that page and they click order here, it'll automatically take them over to the GSM site. They can also find it on...
What's the name of that website again? Courageously Broken?
Courageously-broken.
I'm typing it into the comments right now.
Okay. It can also be downloaded on Amazon. It's available now on Kindle. The paperback is available on Amazon as well. The hardcover is only available from the website at this time by pre-order, and I will be signing those copies and sending them out by Veterans Day. Nice. After Veterans Day, the hardcover will be available in all the bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and, hopefully bookstores everywhere.
Okay. I put in the comments here, courageouslybroken.com. So you can just click on that link and go straight there. I just typed it in Google and it brought me right there. So thank you for what you're doing by speaking out and sharing your story, and for your time in the Navy and for your law enforcement experience. You definitely are a servant of this country, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been my pleasure. I love this country.
All right. We'll talk again soon. Let's keep in touch. And again, like I said, I'll be in, South Florida. I'll be in a few places in Florida early May.
I should be around.
All right. I'll get a hold of you. Maybe we can arrange.
I'll be hopefully getting ready to, submit my retirement papers. That's my goal. But we'll see what happens.
Well, good luck with that. All right. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks again, guys. I'm going to bring you off real quick. Why don't you just stay in the waiting room? We'll chat a little bit before I get off.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you guys for listening to Warriors Next Adventure podcast. Please go check out that book. I just ordered mine today. I'm excited to get it so I can read it. It seems like she has been through quite a bit in her last few years in the military, also in law enforcement. So please go check that out. The best way you can support a veteran is by supporting their business, or supporting something that they're trying to do. Real quick about Warriors Next Adventure, we have a new program, WNA Racing, but we are also taking in donated vehicles now. So we're going to try to get a veteran a vehicle. We're going to try to do 12 vehicles a year if we can. So if you have a vehicle that isn't a complete piece of crap, but actually runs or works. But maybe even if it needs a little bit of work, I am a mechanic. I have a bunch of other veterans who work for the Ford dealership and a bunch of other mechanics. We can get these vehicles running and operational. Um, and we want to try to get veterans working again. Veterans can be proud, and it's hard for them to reach out. But if a vehicle is needed, I want to be able to provide it. So we are taking in vehicles. You do get a donation receipt. And honestly, if you could sell your car for like maybe $400 or $500, donate it, because you can actually get the Kelly Blue Book value back on your taxes. So think about it. It's just it's another option for you to give back to veterans. And we also have the Operation Wolf Dog. So veterans who are in the Minnesota area, we go to Minnesota Wolf Dogs, and we actually get to play with hybrid wolves. It's a lot of fun, and we just went hiking out to a waterfall with a couple wolves the other day. It was awesome. And then we also have the WNA BJJ. We are going to be releasing the dates of the PTSD versus Jiu-Jitsu documentary tour, probably mid to late December. I'm hoping to get all my dates locked down. We'll be traveling the country. It's about 18,000 miles of driving. But I'm going to go to, I think it's 37 different jiu-jitsu gyms. We're climbing mountains. We're going bike riding. We're doing all kinds of amazing things with veterans. So this is going to be a countrywide tour. And the projections are about 2,500-ish veterans on this tour alone. So I hope maybe I can, get some knowledge out to some veterans who may need it. But also the documentary, I'm hoping to get into the Sundance Film Festival and hopefully into Netflix. So we'll see. I'm going to do my best. If you want to donate to that documentary tour, you can go to GoFundMe, PTSD versus Jiu-Jitsu documentary. You will find it in there. We're using that money for gas to get around the country, and for any kind of video equipment that we need, and also any kind of fees that we might need for the trip. I just want all of you to understand that nobody can help you but you. There's only as much advice as people can give. I will do my best to try to help you, get you on track, but you have to be the one to take that information and apply it to your own life. There's inspiration everywhere, and there's plenty of people out there trying to help. If I'm not saying what you need to hear, then please don't stop looking, because there's plenty of other nonprofits doing great things. So thank you guys for all your continuous support. And I just wanted to say I truly love what I do, and I'm never going to stop. So if you guys want to get behind me, do it now, because we're just getting started. Thanks, guys.